So recently, Tucker Carlson has been in the ADL crosshairs, and I'm going to do a little bit, the Transparency and Merit's going to go into a little bit more detail on this, perhaps on a later show, on what the ADL has done recently in the things that it has basically put out there. But I'm going to just do a brief thing. But the ADL has, for something that calls themselves Anti-Defamation League, they sure do seem to defame people of European descent quite a bit and have lack of empathy for them. And it seems like the group seems to be still fighting World War II and 1950s, 1960s America. And they've kind of hurt the internet as far as freedom of information is concerned. And I'm just going to really kind of go into the brief history of the ADL. Then I'm going to go into Tucker Carlson, because he's a year older than Jonathan Greenblatt. And I hope I didn't mispronounce. I'm pronouncing his name correctly. But the Anti-Defamation League, the ADL, was founded just due to the fact, in the wake of the contentious conviction for murder of Leo Frank. Leo Frank was lynched, and they kind of started the ADL because, of course, they were against mobocracy. And they fight anti-Semitism, tracking extremists. The ADL keeps track of activities of extremist group movement, primarily through the Center on Extremism. According to former ADL director Abraham Fox, our mission is to monitor and expose those who are anti-Jewish, racist, anti-democratic, and violence-prone. And we monitor them by reading publications and attending public meetings, because extremist organizations are highly secretive. Sometimes ADL can learn of their activities only by using undercover sources who function in a manner directly analogous to investigative journalism. So, online community surveys and content moderation. And this is where the ADL says it has participation in YouTube's trusted flagger program, and has encouraged YouTube to remove videos which they flag as hate speech, citing the need to fight against terrorist use of online cybernet. The ADL Center of Technology and Society launched a survey in 2019 exploring online harassment in video games. It found the majority of surveyed players experience severe harassment of some kind, and the ADL recommended increased content moderation from game companies. In 2020, ADL joined with the NAACP, the National Hispanic Media Coalition, and other organizations to stop hate for profit. Stop hate for profit. Okay, yeah, so this is primarily about censorship and about things that they don't like. So ADL supports Israel, Jewish democratic state, and supports a two-state solution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. The organization opposed the 1975 Nations Resolution revoked in 1999. Okay, World Conference Against Racism in Durban, South Africa. The ADL has expressed concern over Israeli legislation proposes that would still freedom of it, that stifles freedom of expression and undermines Israel's democracy. I'm going to get into first. I'm going to get into Tucker Carlson, and I want to say a big shout out to Darren. And Darren, if you'd like to join me, I'll give you an invite if you'd like. It's up to you if you want to come in and join in on this wonderful process. I'm talking about Tucker Carlson and Jonathan Greenblatt. Jonathan Greenblatt being the current head of the ADL. So I'm going to get into who Tucker Carlson is. Tucker Carlson was born in San Francisco, California, the oldest son of Richard. I'm not going to get it. Former director of Voice. So in 1976, Carlson's parents divorced after 9 years of marriage, reportedly turned sour. Carlson's father was granted custody of Tucker and his brother. Carlson's mother left the family when he was 6, wanting to pursue a bohemian lifestyle. In 1979, Carlson's father married a Swanson Enterprise person. Swanson is the daughter. Okay. And when Carlson was in first grade, the father moved to Loyola, California. Carlson attended Loyola County Day School and grew up overlooking the La Jolla Beach Tennis Club. His father property in Nevada, Vermont, and the islands. So he grew up rather wealthy. And Carlson briefly enrolled in College Dumont boarding school. So he grew up, like I said, rather wealthy. Carlson began his journalism career as a fact checker and policy review, a national conservative journalist, then published by the Heritage Foundation. In 1999, Carlson interviewed then Governor George Bush. So let's go into his more. So I'm just going to say, just recently he made a speech or a talk about the border crisis, and kind of said that it was a replacement, and the replacement was for people who would vote Democratic. And Jonathan Greenblatt, the head of the ADL, thought that this was hate speech. And Jonathan Greenblatt, he was born in 1970, so he's about a year younger, to a conservative Jewish family. He graduated from Tufts University in 1992 with a Bachelor's of Arts degree. After college, Greenblatt worked on Bill Clinton's successful presidential campaign in '92 in Little Rock, Arkansas. So he is leaning left, and I think he also Greenblatt serves as a special assistant to the president. So he has left leanings, and he actually believes that he is correct in what he does and says. He believes that freedom of speech does not mean freedom of reach. And that, I guess, he believes that crackpots will be inspired to do bad things if they listen to Tucker Carlson, or if they listen to anybody on the internet that has ideas that go against the leftist establishment orthodoxy, that go against critical race theory, that go against immigration policy. If they say it the wrong way, of course, they have to watch what they say. The left certainly does not. And Jonathan Greenblatt makes sure, and the ADL makes sure, that the left gets away with things that the right could never get away with. Of course, they used January 6th, so-called insurrection, which I don't think the other side had any firearms, and there's speculation of that they were let in, and some of them were just kind of mindless. But of course, that is a reason to shut down even more free speech. Anything that happens, whether it be police brutality, a thing of police brutality, or a mass shooting that happens to be, I guess, someone maybe with conservative bent who's a nut job, all conservatives will pay a price in what they are allowed to say and their reach. And they are continuing with this because, of course, the ADL and people like Jonathan Greenblatt thinks that information is dangerous. And I guess the internet companies also believe that because they've changed the algorithms. And it is acting kind of as a publisher. And Section 230, I guess, what a lot of people thought would make, the internet a true place of information, the information superhighway, in the age of information, really what it's turned into, or what it feels like, is it is the age of censorship and punishment. A lot of these rioters, they also formed online, but Jonathan Greenblatt isn't saying anything about that. When Sarah Zhang said what she said online, I don't know how much he commented on that. There seems like a lot of hypocrisy on the left, and the ADL and Jonathan Greenblatt seem to be a real part of that hypocrisy of letting one group, if they're on the left, slide, while another group, they have to watch their P's and Q's. So is this really a free and equal society that the ADL is promoting? I think we should debate that. Hopefully it can be debated. The one thing about is there can we have a trial of public opinion? Can we have an open and honest debate? Or is that too dangerous? Is it too dangerous to see what is allowed and what isn't, and why things are fearful? The ADL also shut down talks about white South African farmers and the murders of white South African farmers. And one of the persons that was also leading that charge was Malcolm Nance. And Malcolm Nance said that Antifa and the Antifa rioters were akin to sports and Super Bowl rioters. And this is the person who said, the South African farm murders, that was a white supremacist dog whistle. I guess we shouldn't have any compassion. And one of them also, I read one of the articles And it said, well, it was like there were a couple hundred to a couple thousand a year. Now it's down to 35. And I guess, or maybe 45, maybe 16, but I guess those numbers are acceptable numbers where we don't have to talk about it. We just, if you discuss that issue, automatically you're siding with the white supremacists. You're siding with all the badness, and even discussing the issue and asking questions is too much for groups like the ADL and the SPLC. You can't go there. You can't talk about demographic replacement. You can't talk about South Africa. You can't talk about Zimbabwe. You can't talk about polar bear hunting, the knockout game, mob violence. Those are things that are just, you cannot address those issues whatsoever. As a matter of fact, you just have to downplay them completely. And of course, what do they say when they talk about Portland? They go, well, they only have a few blocks. It's only about 3 or 4 blocks. They've had it for a couple of months, but they only occupy a few blocks. Same thing as Seattle. They've only occupied a few blocks. Like that's okay. Like that's acceptable. Violent mobs occupy a few blocks. And there's a video I remember watching where I guess it was a conservative reporter, and he was running away against a rabid dog Antifa group. And the police said, you know what? You want to stay out of that area because we cannot protect you. And no group even looks or bats an eye that this is going on in our country, in America. I mean, we fought Iraq. We toppled a regime, and we're allowing this to happen? Sorry if I'm angry. But we're allowing unhinged lunatics to go into neighborhoods and shine lasers in people's houses. And this moral, upright organization called the ADL is worried about what Tucker Carlson says when neighborhoods are burned to the ground and unhinged lunatics control blocks on streets of America and threaten civilized and decent Americans. Well, folks, sorry I got upset, but this is it's just to be one of the most outrageous things I've ever seen. There are people who say the rioting was necessary. Yeah, if you believe that, that's not the kind of America I want to live in. Who people who think that burning buildings and physically assaulting people you disagree with, if you think that's okay, I don't want to live anywhere near you. I don't want to be around you, and I want to escape from you. And I hope other Americans believe the same thing. This kind of thing is really unacceptable. There should be no place for mobocracy. And the ADL, who they came about because the bad things that mobocracy does, is kind of mum and silent on the mobocracy that has happened throughout our nation. The one time, January 6th, which was bad, but the whole months, all of these riots, all of these BLM Antifa riots, nothing. You got to wonder where their moral compass is. And some of these BLM and ADL people, they're straight out of the Pol Pot ideology and the Pol Pot mindset. It's kind of dangerous, folks. Anyway, this has been Brian with Transparency and Merit. Like and subscribe. Leave a comment down below, particularly if you disagree with me. Thank you for listening. And as always, be well.